everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Nick. In today's video, I want to talk about substrates that I've used and substrates that I recommend using, and some why I do, some why I don't. So let's get right into it. Alright, so the first substrate that I want to talk about is paper towels. Now I do use paper towels, but I use it for my babies in their tubs, and that's pretty much about it. I don't really like paper towels. I think it's inconvenient to have to clean them all the time because you're constantly changing them out. They dry out weirder. It seems like, you know, it just personally to me, it doesn't seem like all paper towels dry out the same. And then you're spending a lot more money because you're consistently buying paper towels. Now, this really only comes into effect for someone like me who has, a significant-ish amount of baby crested geckos at one time, or just crested geckos in general. So, paper towel is fine. It's good. I don't really like it in front opening tanks and things like that. The reason I don't like it in tanks like that is because I personally feel like it dries out too fast. I know some people like it because it's easy and convenient to clean, but I still think it dries out way too fast, and I don't think that the answer is misting your tank 2 to 3 times a day. I think that that's wrong, and I don't think that that's really good for your gecko to be misting that much. So I would lean toward not using paper towel. Personally, I just don't really like it. I think that there's better ways to do things, which I'll move on to now. Cocoa fiber. I think cocoa fiber is great. I think it lasts a very long time. You can spot clean as needed. You can definitely add some springtails and some isopods to help clean the mold in the tank and even some of the waste that the crested gecko produces. So springtails and isopods are really good for that, and you have cocoa fiber in there that will last much longer. And also, too, it's good at holding that humidity in there, so when you're only misting once a day, you're actually still maintaining the proper humidity that the gecko needs without having to provide something like, say, a humid hide if you do have the paper towel. So that's kind of like why I like cocoa fiber better than just paper towel. My favorite, blend, I guess, is cocoa fiber and spag moss. And there's tons of like great YouTube channels on how they make their substrates and things like that. Like I know Serpa Design, he has tons of, incredible videos in general, but also he has some videos where he makes his, bio dirt and all that other stuff with like parts of sand in there and all this, leaf litter and all this other stuff. This is just more basic stuff that I use. It doesn't get too in-depth like that, but coconut fiber and spag moss I think is one of the best because the spag moss helps hold the humidity, and the cocoa fiber does as well. And then your springtails and isopods, when you add them in there, they'll feed on that over time, and it just kind of helps keep the tank healthy. I know a lot of people are scared to use just cocoa fiber because they don't want to deal with the mold spurts, but if you add springtails and you add isopods, you will avoid that, and it will become a healthy organic tank. It is not, well, I don't know. I don't think it's bioactive to do that necessarily. I think it's like half bioactive, because you're gonna have a hard time planting in something like that, just because it would need to be something that doesn't, the drainage layer in a bioactive setup. So your typical bioactive setup is gonna have rocks as the drainage layer, some form of something to help drain. They have those little clay balls even, a separator, and then your soil mix to plant in. But if you don't have that drainage layer, what can happen is the plants will kind of drown because they're the very bottom of the tank where some of the water will build up and things like that. Water can become saturated, so when you are misting in your tank, you need to still make sure that the cocoa fiber is damp. Don't just spray it in there like crazy and then let it pull up and walk away. That's a mistake I made. That's a mistake I made when I first started. Was I just had cocoa fiber in the tanks, and I would mist them, and I'm like, oh cool, it's staying wet. And I was like wondering, like, why are some parts super wet and some parts super dry? And it just has something to do with how the water will travel through these. So what I had to do a lot of times, guys, is I had to like stir up the bottom of the tank to evenly spread the water to make sure that it wasn't all saturating one area and then other areas were completely dry. This was worse with like the blocks even. The blocks were hard because it'd soak up a ton of water in one spot, and it seemed like some spots never got touched. But either way, I like cocoa fiber because it's very accessible to all users. You know, you can go to a lot of pet stores have it, and a lot of your local pet stores should have it because it's very popular. So cocoa fiber is a good substrate. Cocoa fiber spag moss mix is a really, really good substrate. That's my favorite substrate. Now, a substrate that I do like and a substrate that I really do miss using because we've kind of moved to tubs. So for my tubs, a lot of my tubs, I'm just using like a thin layer of dirt, thin enough to where I can spot clean. I'm using Nature's natural dirt. It's completely safe, no additives, you know, nothing thrown in there, no chemicals thrown in there, no fertilizer, nothing like that. It's just their natural dirt. That's what I use, and I just use a thin layer at the bottom. I do put springtails in there. We do still have to spot clean, of course, but the reason I do that is it's more efficient than me having to change paper towels out like every week, and it helps hold humidity in these tubs, so I don't have to mist as much. Just because it's not smart. Misting a tank daily is okay. I don't think that's necessary even. I think you can do every other day in a tank as well. But misting a tub every other day is much better because it does properly dry out within that time period, whereas that time period may happen faster in your tank, depending on where you live, etc. So the dirt that I miss using, just because we don't have as many tanks as we used to, is Biodude. I really miss using his Terra Fauna mix, and you know, the leaf litter and the spag moss and just the whole deal, and you know, all that. I do really miss that because it's fun to plant in tanks and it's fun to do that. But you know, when you're having this many crested geckos and you're breeding them, it's not always like financially smart to do that throughout the whole thing as much as I would really like to. And the same thing is like, you know, with our setups like this, I can't put all that in this tub. It would, first of all, be way too heavy, and secondly, it just wouldn't, the airflow isn't enough to where it would be like a very, very, very humid environment in there. So that's one thing. If you can go through Biodude and you guys want to really like spoil your gecko or a couple geckos and you want to get that whole shebang going, I think that's by far the best option. It's great dirt, and he has like the Biodude, it's got the, I don't know, I think it's like the BioShock or something like that's what it's called, and you mix it in with your dirt. It's fantastic. I love that stuff. That stuff was amazing. And remember guys, depending on where you live, like where I live, paper towels and tanks dries out super fast. And I'm assuming most places it does as well, but there are some places where you can't necessarily do the same as what I do here may not work in Florida or something like that. You know, I don't know. It may not. So, and winters are different everywhere. So if you have a very dry winter, it could really, like if you live in a very dry area for winters, paper towels are a huge no-go, just because it's not worth the hassle, and you need something to help keep up that humidity more throughout the day. But that's just my opinions on it. Like I said, comment down below what you use, and also comment down below some video ideas that you guys want to see in the future, or something, I don't know. Comment down below what you want to see. I need some help in the idea department, so comment some stuff down below, and until next time guys, stay safe and stay positive.